This is day 2 of BevNET Live Winter 2019. My name is Marty Caballero. I'm the managing editor at BevNET.com. It's been great to see you all here. I'm sure I'll be having many more conversations with you guys as the day goes on. We had a great day yesterday, but believe it or not, we may even top it today. We have a great agenda, great speakers, and the finals of New Beverage Showdown. So a lot of great stuff to get to. So you guys don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from our great speakers. So let's get right to it. I've been at BevNET for about 3 years or so, and I think disruption may be the word I've written possibly more than any during my time there, about 50 million by my count. But I think it's something that can sometimes be misunderstood, because being disruptive isn't just about tearing up the established rules of a category or chasing a hot new ingredient. That's kind of inspiration, and inspiration is nothing without execution, and that takes time and it takes work. And in order to be most effective, there needs to be a conversation, a dialogue, an exchange between the raw data analytics and the brand itself so they can work together to produce real results. So that's exactly what we're going to do here with Perteet Spencer, who's the VP of CPG and Enterprise Sales at Spins, and Vanessa Dew, the co-founder and chief sales officer at Health-Ade Kombucha. They're going to give us a macro view on how trends and market forces are shaping refreshment beverages at the dawn of a new decade, and also be providing a close-up look at how one of the leading brands in a rapidly growing category, that being Health-Ade, has used data to drive growth of the functional beverage segment, scale to reach a broader consumer base across channels, and inform where they go next. Perteet, Vanessa, I'll hand it over to you guys.
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for being here with me this morning. We get to work with hundreds of brands at Spins, and Health-Ade is always one of our favorites because you really use our insights to drive growth in your total business. So excited to share what you're doing with the team today.
Thanks, Perteet. Happy to be here with you.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's dig right in. So as we think about the consumer landscape today, we're in the midst of massive shifts across the landscape. And so we're really seeing consumption habits shift, which is really resulting in a new dawn. And beverages is certainly at the epicenter of that. As you think about the market about 50 years ago, it was really dominated by major conglomerates. But what you're seeing today is what we think of as really the rise of micro brands. And so brands are able to very, very effectively kind of connect directly consumers beyond direct brick and mortar, build loyal followings through social media. And all of this has really resulted in this interesting rise of specialization, with brands really rising to the occasion and meeting just about every consumer value proposition. As we think about this impact on the broad product marketplace, we're really seeing legacy brands be unseated by new entrants, and beverage, especially brands like Health-Ade, is at the center of that. So how do we think about what's happening in the beverage landscape in total? What does that landscape look like? Today, we measure the market about $120 billion in sales across channel, up 3%. And what's really interesting about the growth that you're seeing in the market is it's coming from some unexpected places. And so we track about 14 segments across refreshment beverages at Spins. Soft drinks is still dominant at about 25% of the market, but you're actually seeing rise to many other places that have been, slow growing to stable for many years. So I think a good example is something like refrigerated creamers, which has seen an influx of growth over the last 3 years and is now outpacing the market by nearly 2x. And that's a direct result of companies really stepping up and meeting this new wave of trends. So things like plant-based, real milk bases, et cetera, are really driving all new growth to what have historically been kind of stale categories. Now, we know that consumers are really portfolio drinkers, and so you see that a lot of interesting interplay across this beverage landscape. So if you think of something like kombucha, we know it's sourcing volume from sodas, juices, refrigerated juices, shelf-stable juices, functional waters, right? And so this whole shift has really resulted in this landscape of really micro mashups. And so you're seeing things like milk be disrupted by cold brew and plant-based creamers. Soda, we've seen a dramatic rise, as you all have talked about at the show over the last couple of days, in things like CBD and this influx of growth of sparkling waters. And even things like juices are being disrupted with new bases like bone broth. So Vanessa, I'd love to hear from you, given you've been really a leader in this growth, this functional beverage growth. How have you really set the stage to lead in such a dynamic marketplace?
Yeah, that's a great question, Perteet. So as I think about where Health-Ade has come from and where we are today, we've grown dramatically. We're in close to 30,000 doors now. We have 300 employees. We're the fastest growing brand in the kombucha set. And as I think about the why, I can really say I think there's 3 big reasons for it. One is our team. Bar none, we have people that will run through walls for us, move mountains, and the iterations of Health-Ade over the years, we've been able to gain subject matter expertise into our company. We've been able to build capabilities, and a lot of that has been through data. And our team has been so adept at of pivoting with the growth that we've encountered that they are second to none out there. And if I think about the second reason, it's really building that data story and what Health-Ade and really the category means to our retailers. And I have to give a shout out to our Director of Insights, Rick James, affectionately known in the Health-Ade house. We had a great foundation over the last couple of years of data, but our insights team has really been able to work with spins and build that story so we have a really strong, credible value story to tell to retailers and consumers, and we will only capitalize upon that. And third is honestly the brand. It's been the cornerstone of how we started this company. Dinah, Justin, and I started in the farmer's market with the idea that we can build a lifestyle brand, that we could be in every fridge in America, and we are building to that now.
Awesome. I love hearing about your beginnings in the farmers markets and thinking about where you are today, and it actually segues nicely to our next topic, which is really about channel expansion. And so I want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the channel landscape and how you've used that to really grow your base at Health-Ade. So as you think of that kind of $118 billion marketplace that I was talking about of refreshment beverages, what you're seeing on the charts up here is kind of the mix. And you can see, in large part, it's still highly dominated by conventional channels. And so multi-outlet, which are all your conventional retailers, Walmart, Target, et cetera, represent about 70% of the market still. What's interesting to me is you're actually seeing some interesting growth on convenience. So that convenience growth is outpacing the total market. And a lot of that growth is driven by item expansion. So as we start to unpack the marketplace, wanted to use some of the spins assets to understand kind of what's growing and how we use that as an indicator of what's next and really poise the path for the brands of the future. And so one way we do that is via product attributes. So we code about 10,000 items a month, from soup to nuts, all the way down to the ingredient level at our offices in Chicago. The core of our attributes are our brand positioning. So we look at items in 3 ways. Conventional beverages, which is a majority of the market today, just under $60 billion in sales, but underpacing growth of the total industry at about 1.6%. And then combined, we have a specialty group and a natural group. Combined, those 2 groups equal our health and wellness beverages landscape. That's about $42 billion in sales and 6.3% in growth, so significantly outpacing conventional. Now, there are a couple of things that are interesting about that. One, as we look at categories across the store or broader product groups across the store, that mix of health and wellness to conventional is certainly typically not as heavily weighted towards health and wellness. And so I think it really reinforces the importance of these natural and specialty beverages in the total marketplace. And then, second, they're growing. And so to understand a path forward, we wanted to take that channel level data and drill down one layer further to look at how that plays out across channels. And the story still holds true, and actually even more so, you're seeing the growth of these specialty health and wellness items significantly grow in what are traditionally scaled channels. So health and wellness items are up 6% in MULO to a total conventional item growth of 2.2%, and even significantly higher at 7.2% in convenience. And so, Vanessa, given this dynamic, I'd love to understand how you're capitalizing on this strong growth of this kind of next generation of health and wellness items as they grow across the landscape.
Yeah, so when we first started, we felt that the consumer of kombucha was really a natural. And we say we felt because we didn't have the access to spins that we do now. We felt that we had to own that consumer in natural, and that's where we had to play. Little did we know we were creating this really strategic, disciplined channel strategy to make sure we were successful where we first put our step into the market. And so we wanted to own that natural consumer. And interestingly enough, as these trends really started to take hold in the conventional channels and other channels, mass, and we're seeing this whole curiosity of health-based ingredients and functional ingredients, it's been really amazing to see Health-Ade follow that trend as well. But looking back at 2015, when we were strictly in natural, and I remember a retailer, a multinational conventional retailer, calling us saying, "Are you ready to come into our stores?" It's really scary to say, no, we just aren't ready yet. Because at the time, we knew we still had to prove ourselves in the natural channel. And I think that's hard for a lot of entrepreneurs building their brand. But we were really committed to staying true to what that story was. And that, I think, made us stronger as we started to spread our wings into broader channels and speak to a new consumer. And as I look back, it's really given us strength as we start to move forward into new untapped channels where the health-curious consumer lies. And we're so excited to take on that challenge. And I think it makes our job even harder, but it's the most exciting part of it because we can start to talk to a new consumer. We can start to flex our muscle as a brand to really tell our story beyond just the functional benefits, but it's really about the brand story and what we are as a brand to all these new consumers curious about their health.
I love that idea of using the natural channel to really, as a proving ground, as an incubator channel. It's actually how we think about it at Spins, but really using it to get those insights to fuel the growth of the future and really win with a more mainstream consumer as you scale the brand. So to that end, we'll actually shift the conversation in that direction. So as we think about the cross-channel landscape at Spins, one of the things that we focus heavily on are what we think of as the innovation channels. So those are those natural and specialty retailers that over-index with those progressive consumers who are really shaping the landscape of the future. Now, we'll show you in a few slides kind of what we're seeing in the natural channel in terms of brands and attributes that are winning. But I think it's important to look at that natural channel as really an incubator channel of what could be a next. So very similar to your story, we use that natural channel as a place to identify early stage trends and then support the growth of those brands as they scale into retail. As those assortments shift, as you saw in some of those earlier slides. So in terms of what we're seeing in the natural channel, a couple key things that I'll highlight. First, you're seeing that brands that are winning are really coming to the table not with just attributes, but really unique value propositions. So what you're seeing here is the top 15 beverage brands that are driving growth in the natural channel. So these are absolute growth dollars. And what's interesting is you quickly get a sense of, if you rattled off some of these brands, you quickly can pinpoint kind of the key attributes that they're delivering against. So exciting to see Health-Ade up there with a strong proposition. But you also have brands like Zevia that are leading really with lower sweetener alternatives, brands like Essentia that are really focused on kind of distinctive attributes, and then certainly many brands that are capitalizing on the strong growth of plant-based in the broader marketplace. Now, we take those brands as a starting point, and then we really like to drill down all the way to the ingredient level. And that really helps us identify kind of what are some of the underpinnings that are fueling growth on these brands. So as you look at the natural channel, and I can guarantee you it does look different for conventional. We've looked at it a couple different ways. But as you look at the natural channel, you are seeing many brands differentiate with these interesting functional ingredients. Rounding out the top of the list, not surprisingly, is CBD, with almost 500% growth in the natural channel over the last year. But you're also seeing some interesting attributes like matcha, yerba mate, and ginger, which is exciting to see given my favorite Health-Ade SKU is your ginger lemon. So
Top seller.
So would love to understand from you, Vanessa, knowing that your proposition is beyond just ingredients, how do you really use data to inform where you go next?
Yeah, so here's the thing about data. It could be so powerful, but it could be so paralyzing, right? How many people have seen a set of data and been filled with analysis paralysis? At the same time, you can use data in such powerful ways to understand what is the next step. And for us at Health-Ade, we're thinking about it in a couple different ways. But one is, where we play today. In those 30,000 doors, how are we doing? What are our gaps? What are the white spaces that we still need to go after? Where do we hunt, essentially? And I think that's what's been really great about our partnership with Spins is you've been really helpful in understanding the story, the adjacencies. Where is our consumer? Where can we go? But at the heart of it, I go back to the cornerstone of our growth. And you can show us where to hunt, but you can't show us how. And that really goes back to our team. And you can point us into the direction of where we could go, but ultimately the proof is in the pudding and we need to make it happen. So I think that's one important thing is the data can definitely show you and paint that picture. But at the end of the day, it's putting pen to paper and making it happen. And I think the second thing here is, as we think about innovation, and Marty talked about disruption, we're thinking about who is that next consumer that we're talking to? What is that next level of innovation we're going after? How are we disrupting the category and beverage altogether? And we know we can be a leader in beverage. We are a leader in beverage. And the data is more helpful not to show us where to go, but to support why we're going there. And we will always lead with our brand proposition, that value proposition that you talked about. And I think that is our true north. And the data to help support who we're talking to and why we're doing that is so powerful. Truthfully, Perteet, I don't think there's a lot of brands talking to people who look like me and you, but there could be, there should be, and we can utilize data to help prove that story or not. And that's a little bit about how we're utilizing data at Health-Ade is who is that consumer, how are we talking to them, and why are we talking to them?
Awesome. So it's time to put pen to paper. For our friends out in the audience, what's your best advice for our innovators in the audience today?
I'm going to go back to our trusty line at Health-Ade, and it's follow your gut. And I think for new entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, people who've been in the game, follow your gut means so much more than just literally following your gut. It is something so much bigger than that. I think we all get caught up in the science of it all, or could be caught up in the data of it all, right? But there is this happy medium of where art meets science, and it is that art of following your gut. And for us, when we started Health-Ade, it is truly starting our journey and taking that first step. We didn't have all the data in the world to tell us where to go. We had to figure that out for ourselves. And we've done that time over time. Now we're just powered with so many more resources. But at the the end of the day, the data won't ultimately show you how to do it. It's more about that blend and how you follow your gut to your true north. And so that's what I would say.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being such a good partner to Spins. We look forward to continuing to help you on this incredible growth journey that you're on, and would love to open it up for any questions in the audience.
Well, if you do have questions, you guys can send in questions, and we'll receive them up here on the stage. Thanks so much for a great talk, guys. It was really, really fantastic. We have time for some questions here. It was interesting to look at the growth in the natural channel, and you mentioned how that channel has really been a great incubator, as we've seen with Health-Ade. But at the same time, it looks like those health and wellness products are really growing pretty quickly in other channels as well. So, if you're a young company, if you're an entrepreneur, does it still make sense to start there when we're seeing fast adoption in these other channels?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think in today's this dynamic landscape today, I think of natural and conventional as kind of a yin and a yang. So I think it's important to win in the natural channel. I think what the natural channel provides is a really fertile kind of proving ground. So if you think of the consumers, so if you look at our most discriminate consumers, or most kind of natural disposed consumers, you've got about 20% of consumers driving about 40% of the sales, and they're heavily shopping the natural channel. And so winning in that channel, like I always say, it's like New York, New York. Like if you can make it in the natural channel, like you can make it anywhere. But certainly you can't dismiss the importance of conventional channels to drive a scalable business for the long term. So balancing both and using and having a clear role for both, I think are really important for brands to win in today's landscape.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Vanessa.
I would just add to that, I think it's not one size fits all. I think you definitely have to win in natural, but I look to other brands like Impossible Meat or Beyond Burger and how they're winning in on-premise. And I think it's really cool to see brands that can win outside of just the typical channel strategy growth. Yeah. And it's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
And you talked about the job that you guys done in sort of building the data story that you can sort of bring to retailers and really show the progress that you guys made. What are those conversations like with retailers and distributors? I mean, do they get the data that you're showing right off the bat, or what kind of story do you need to shape to be effective when you're talking to them?
Yeah, I mean, at first, truthfully, we're selling the dream before we had access to data.
Sure.
And as we started to build this data story, it wasn't just the bias story of what Health-Ade can offer. It's more about category first. And our category management team has been very strong in this, and I think this has built our credibility as not just Health-Ade, but a beverage brand that can offer resources beyond just what they're selling. And so I think with that approach, we've really gain the trust of retailers so that they can come to us for planograms, so that they can come to us for data beyond the consumer, for data beyond kombucha, and understanding how to build their total functional beverage set. And with that, it's proved really well, and you can slip in what you need to with Health-Ade.
See what you did there. Over time, I wonder too, is there, as you guys have gained more access to Spins data, is there stuff have you been able to separate, okay, this is less useful, this is more useful? Is there, do you have any sort of guideposts to steer entrepreneurs in the audience to sort of what data is really the stuff that you should be paying attention to?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was very much, what is the category doing? What are the main accounts? How are we doing there? What's the brand health in these accounts? As we get a little bit more sophisticated as far as what the consumer demo looks like, what the sources of volume may be for the total category, that has been helpful. I will say that our insights team is way more adept at utilizing that and kind of waving it around as a wand. Too much data can, I think, paralyze anyone, right? So for us, it's more about how all of that information gets distilled so that we can take action on it. I think that's what's most important for any organization. What's the most important takeaway, and how do you act on it?
Yeah, and what I will add to that in working with Vanessa and Rick is they're really, really good about going in with a clear objective. I totally agree with you that the data can be paralyzing if you allow it to do that. But I think going in and using the data, making the data work for you instead of you working for the data is really the trick to make sure that you're using the data to really support where you're trying to go.
Absolutely. I wonder too, in terms of constructing a team, Vanessa, how does sort of the increased importance of data and analytics, and it sounds like you mentioned that you guys have a great team focused on that, but if you're an entrepreneur or a company, do you need to sort of carve out some space within your team for a dedicated sort of data specialist, or how should we think about that in terms of building a team?
Yeah, so in the beginning, very, very beginning, let's say circa 2014, we didn't have that capability. It was more about what is the story and the brand story that we're telling. And our team was very much built around just making it happen operationally and sales and marketing focused. But as we become really wanting to be leaders in beverage, you have to talk that game and make it valuable for the retailers. So over time, it's become a competency, not just that we needed to build in, but we needed to expand upon. And hiring just one headcount to oversee all analytics isn't going to do the job when you're trying to become a billion-dollar brand and get into every fridge in America. It just doesn't cut it. So that investment in category management and insights has really been a pillar of how we've grown, and I don't see that slowing down. In fact, we're only going to turn up that investment.
And yesterday we talked, or there was discussion, I think, overall in the program about sort of ethics, sort of the mission-driven, purpose-driven companies, and how important that is in 2020. I wonder, is there ways that data can inform the kind of things that maybe you guys may be interested in sort of getting behind and supporting in that sense, things like sustainability and other sort of aspects of that greater mission?
Yeah, so we have over 500 attributes at Spins that we track, many of them tied directly to sustainability, so things like B Corp or how good, et cetera. So certainly those can be good indicators to the importance of those. And what I can tell you is often brands who are like truly living those values, you see that reflected in the data. But I think the data is it tells one piece of the story, right? So a B Corp attribute tells you that companies who are visibly living against those attributes, how they perform superior in the marketplace. But we use that as like one piece of a broader narrative.
I think if we use the data to tell us what we should be, we would be a jack of all trades but a master of none. And for us, I go back to we have to lead with our brand purpose and what that value proposition is for us. So, and we can utilize the data to really help support that story. And that's how we're able to really craft this more mission and purposeful drive that we're on to really connect with the consumer. And I think that's just more real at the end of the day. We've never done anything for the sake of doing it, and we won't start now.
And just want to shift gears a little bit. We have about a minute left, but I want to get your thoughts on this. Someone in the audience sent in this question. You guys kind of brought it up a little bit towards the end there. Diversity, inclusion, bringing more people into this beverage industry from a wide variety of backgrounds. I know it's not an easy question to answer in 30 seconds, but how can we sort of support greater diversity and inclusion when it comes to the beverage industry?
I mean, I think there's a couple ways to think about it. For one, as a brand, I think we can be culturally present and relevant in the conversation. There's a whole movement going on outside of this room that we could be a part of. And I think it's our right expectation to be part of that and be able to speak to that new consumer and really understand those needs. And it's exciting to think about that.
I would also say as a brand, bring consumers into your story. People are drawn to brands that share similar values. And I think, to the extent your brand, I look at the great job Health-Ade has done in terms of really creating kind of an inclusive social media presence. I think that goes a long way in kind of bringing a full breadth of consumers into your brand journey.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. It was a fantastic conversation.
Thank
really
you.
important stuff. Okay.
If you like this video, don't forget to hit subscribe. Ding the bell and you'll know when the next one drops.